like maybe like a week ago, Tim Pool. I know how much you like listening to his show. Um, there was something where he was talking about Merrick Garland, calling him a garbage human for using the AG for revenge,
Right.
and then it was like 5 seconds later, he's saying, "Well, I want Trump to be president so he can get his revenge tour." Like
Right.
it was just this
Right.
dichotomy. Like I had noted that. I'm like,
No, it's weird. It's like I want my guy in power. That's really what it boils down to. Is it's okay as long
yeah,
as my guy's doing it.
late on it, but
Right.
U.S. women's national team losing in the first round. The powerhouse. This is supposed to be the best team that's been assembled since the Justice League, and
Right.
losing in the first round
Right. On penalty kicks.
on penalty kicks, which I don't think most Americans really understand soccer well enough to know that that's like basically if the game ends in a tie, then that's where you go to penalty kicks and these bigger
Right.
events.
Right. No, I don't think most Americans would know what that means, but it's like losing in a shootout in a hockey game. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
right.
But you're combining probably two of the least interest things for sports for
Oh my
Americans, right?
god,
You got
hockey is the most
soccer
interesting
and
sport. Like, don't get me
soccer
started.
and women's sports. Like
Like,
how many Americans actually care about that?
I mean, soccer is coming up on the U.S. man, just by the numbers. It's more popular than American football in the U.S.
I definitely well, that might be because of immigration. So if you've got a lot of people that are coming from other
No,
countries that they're going to be watching that.
it's because we got Messi, man. We got Messi in Florida.
No, I think what it is women's soccer in particular is because they were winning, and that's what Americans care about more than anything else is winning. Like we want the best teams. We don't really care about the politics of the team or what they're trying to champion. We just want people that are winning, and even secondary is going to be American values,
Right.
which now Megan Rapinoe, that's neither. She's neither a winner nor somebody who champions true
Oh
American
no,
values.
she's won 2 women's World Cups before this. Relax. Like
It's a team
you lose
sport.
you lose one, that's fine. Oh, so when they lose, it's her fault, but it's a team sport when they win. Got it.
I mean, that is kind of so if you're the one that misses the penalty kick and
Right.
everybody else is making their penalty kicks, I mean, who do you point the finger at? The
I
coach?
mean, she missed, and that's the thing is like it wasn't just her that missed, but yeah, she missed. And
Yeah,
the
I think
thing
there was
is
two
like
people that
yeah, and she's got to own that, and that is what it is. It sucks that the U.S. isn't going to be represented in the Women's World Cup, but it is what it is. Can't win them all.
you can't win them all, but to go out in the first round and the way that she just laughed it off, like this is the end of her career, which uh, on some level I do understand that like people react differently to things like that, and
She's,
I don't know.
I mean, she's been doing it for a long time. She's been a great representative of the U.S. Like I remember the last one when Donald Trump was saying horrible stuff about her, and she brushed it off and brought us home another World Cup. Like I think she's been spectacular.
Okay, you can say that she's been spectacular, but to say that she's been a great representative of the US, somebody who doesn't wanna sing the national anthem, that I don't know if she went full, "I'm gonna kneel," but she wants nothing to do with the United States. If I think she hates the United States.
Well, when
I
the
don't
sitting
think she's a
president of the United
representative.
States has tried to defame you, like, yeah, I kind of get it. I'm just saying, like, she has her reasons, but you know what? You kept putting her on the team. Apparently, she's just that good.
I don't think the president of the United States was appointing her to the team, but it's kinda like what you just said about that team mentality versus a single like, you had a single individual calling you out, so you're gonna say, "I hate this whole country.
I don't think she
This whole
hates the
country
country.
that's made me a millionaire."
I don't think she hates the entire country. I think she hates the people that run it. That's the problem. Like,
Mm, I think that cuts one way. I don't think she hates the uniparty. I don't think
oh,
she hates Nancy Pelosi. I think it is very much just the right wing that she
okay.
hates.
I mean, I don't particularly care for the right wing of this country, but you know what? Still love my country. Like,
I don't think you would find the words "I love this country" coming. This is the same Megan Rapinoe that when those World Cups that you're talking about that she
mhm,
won, and when she won the MVP for that whole deal, she's out
right.
there yelling, "I deserve this. I deserve everything. I deserve this." Like what a just sweetheart of a person.
Okay. Like, people celebrate in different ways. If she feels she deserved it, then what not? Like,
Yeah, I think you're seeing true colors. Like, I think you're
okay.
just seeing this arrogance, this entitlement. There was a video that I saw, like, I should have pulled this up, but a video is she's at some event where, like, she's dressed up nice, and this kid walks up to her with a soccer ball to, like, have her sign it, and 0 eye contact. Like, she just pulls out the pen, signs it, like, "All right, get the hell away from me,
Right.
kid." Like, and, like, that is Megan Rapinoe.
I mean, yeah. The thing is like I'm not going to sit here and defend her character, but like uh, on the world stage, man, like there are teams out there that would kill to have Megan Rapinoe on their team. Like I think, like if I'm putting together a dream team, it's going to have Megan Rapinoe on it, like hands down.
Maybe, but this is another kind of thought that I had for women's world soccer is the only reason that the United States is such a dominant team
Mm.
is half the world's women are still living under whatever law, like Sharia law. You're not gonna see the Saudi Arabian women's team doing anything, like,
I mean,
half the
I, I
women aren't allowed to compete.
I don't disagree with that stance, but at the same time, like you're telling me that you were telling me the men's teams that get schooled by South American countries all the time. You're telling me that South American women are living under Sharia. You're telling me that they can't put together a team.
Not Sharia, but they're living in a very different type of system where
Well,
the women are not incentivized to be
it's a
professional
different
athletes.
it's a different culture for sure, right? But at the
The
same time, like you're competing on the world stage. Wouldn't you try to put together the best team that you possibly could?
It depends on how much people care about it. Like, I would argue that I mean, I don't wanna bring up
Soccer,
the UFC too much, but that is a world stage. Like, they have events everywhere, but the women's events are still very much secondary to the men's events.
I mean, soccer is the most watched sport worldwide, and you're going to tell me that people don't care enough about it to put together a good women's team? Come on.
It's no it so this goes back to the way I started everything here, is it's not that people don't care enough about soccer to
Mhm.
put together a women's team, it's people don't care enough about women's sports to put together a women's team.
I mean, women's sports viewership is definitely below the men's for sure.
I think every professional women's league that exists, like at that top level, they get supplemented money from the men's. That's absolutely true of the WNBA. That's absolutely true of women's soccer. It's true of every female sport that I know of.
Okay. So are you making the argument then that we shouldn't have female sports?
I'm making the argument that number one, this whole equal pay deal that Megan Rapinoe, like when she was asked, "What was your crowning achievement? What was the most memorable moment from all of this?" And it was the equal pay fight.
Right.
And first of all, they got the contract that they asked for. They sued to get the original contract that they were offered, which was more similar to the men's. But still, their salaries are supplemented by the men's national team, and it's every professional sport. What I'm saying is, if you're not drawing equal viewership, then why would you expect equal pay?
So here's the thing though, is that the people that run the women's sports leagues tend to also run the men's sports leagues, right? So it's not men versus women. It's more like the athletes are fighting for a bigger piece of the pie, right? Like it's, hey, I bring in viewership to your channel, your team. Like I put people in the stands instead of the other. I want a bigger share of your profit.
Okay,
And that's kind of like the way that I approach this is it's more class struggle than anything else. It's the working class versus the executive board upstairs, right?
well,
Like,
let's take what you're saying,
mhm,
this slice of the pie.
okay,
So if we look at the salary or all the money, however many millions, billions of dollars are going into this pie, everybody gets a little slice. I feel like that slice of the salary pie that you're taking should be pretty equal to the slice of like the pie that you're contributing. So that viewership, whether it's advertising views or just
you will
advertising dollars,
you will
why
never
shouldn't that be?
you will never calculate the amount that you bring in versus another one of your employees. It's impossible. You can't do it.
It's it's impossible to get down to an exact like
E-
penny, but
Exactly.
I think we can agree that Steph Curry brings in way more viewers than Bam Out of Bio.
I mean,
Like,
y- I mean,
Everybody knows who Steph Curry is. Bam Adebayo is one of the best centers in the league, but I don't think your average person knows that name.
yeah, people aren't just going to go sit in the stands for a no-name person. Like I get that part, but the thing is like, hey, if I'm a professional athlete, right, and I'm doing the exact same job as these other athletes, and I'm the women's team, and I've won 2 World Cups while the men's team has won none. Why wouldn't I be like, hey, I should be making at least as much as these people are? And if you go
Because
look
you're
up
not
the if you go look up the numbers from the last World Cup, the women's World Cup soccer team had more viewership in the finals than the men's World Cup soccer team did in their elimination game. So you're just
okay, let's like there's a lot to kind of unpack there. So,
right.
first of all, the World Cup, like there's no other teams playing. You're going to have viewership from all of these countries that we were just talking about, all
Right.
these Latin American.
And the
So,
entire time that game's going on, I am bringing in viewership, which is making my boss money, right?
sure.
So why wouldn't
Sure,
I
sure.
be able to go to my boss and be like, hey, I'm going to need a raise
So,
because I'm
for that
padding my pockets.
for that individual game,
Mhm.
absolutely. If we were to break this down on like, here's how much you earn per game, instead of saying, so this goes back to what the women originally asked for in their contract. They
Mhm.
were given here's how much you get paid for the games that you play. And then they did the math and realized, wait, we would have made a lot more money on that versus the guaranteed money that we asked for. And that's what they sued for to get that back.
But what
So
I'm
playing
saying
in the
is,
World Cup and incentive laced contracts, I think absolutely they should make more for playing in the World Cup final versus
right,
a qualifying round.
right.
But to say overall we deserve the exact same amount of pay
But no,
when
but if I'm presiding over both men's and women's soccer, and I'm going, well, like the men's team, yeah, they bring in a ton of viewership for their games, but they never make it to the finals. And I have the women's team that brings in a bit less viewership, but they tend to make it to the finals. Like, which one? Like, if just based on performance, who am I paying more? And I think the
I,
women were right in saying, like, hey, we're going to need a bigger slice of this pie because, like,
if you're playing more games,
we make you more money for longer than the
exactly.
men's
So
team
if you're playing more games,
does.
then sure, you should get more money than the person that's only playing a few games. But
Right.
let's say, and I just want to take what you said there. The men's team does not bring in a ton of viewership.
I mean,
They bring in more viewership, but
they
a
bring in
ton I
more,
think
but
is a
I
bit
I mean
hyperbolic. But
I mean, you do have diehard Team USA fans that want to see them reach the World Cup, but I've been
you have
disappointed
diehard
every year.
cricket
I
fans
watch
too.
soccer, so like,
Right, like, you have diehard boxing fans that I mean,
right.
it doesn't represent what and maybe boxing's a bad example because
Let's
that's
say boxing has a big following, so
people care way more about boxing than they do soccer, especially in America.
I don't know if you go by the
That
numbers, they're
that's
pretty
not even being
comparable.
facetious.
Uh,
It's not the NFL, but boxing definitely has a
well,
bigger viewership.
NFL just does the numbers inside the US, right? Like NFL takes the cake inside the US. Outside the US, not so much. It's soccer all the way around. So if you're
It
talking global viewership, you've got a whole other thing going on.
mm, I mean, India, soccer ain't their biggest sport, that's cricket, right?
I mean,
I'm
yeah,
100% certain on that. That's actually
but I
I don't know
mean,
if we wanna
go across the border there, like Pakistan. Pakistan
I'm
has
pretty
a
sure
big soccer
Pakistan
team.
cricket is
Mm, a lot of
I
them
think
watch
cricket
soccer.
still.
Like,
So, where I'm getting this
right.
Disney Plus, like, all their viewership tanking. So, I guess Disney had actually bought the exclusive rights to air cricket games in India and then offered their
Yeah,
membership, like, half off. So, that's how
yeah.
they pumped up all their membership and, like, daily active users numbers, and now they're not renewing Indian that contract, so a bunch of Indian
Yeah.
subscribers are dropping
Well,
off.
well, I mean, they also bought ESPN, and now they're looking to offload it. Like they
Hmm,
brought in an executive board to try to sell it. It's not as profitable
yeah.
as they thought it was.
Get woke, go broke.
I don't think that. I think
Yeah.
it's just Disney's too big as it is, and I think that they're just trimming the fat.
Maybe, but that's what that I think that Donald Trump had this take on his Truth Social that it was that same "get woke, go broke" when he was talking about Rapinoe. That maybe if you spend a little bit more time practicing, maybe you'll spend a little bit more time on the pitch. You know, you're,
This is like the guy that defamed you. You won a World Cup despite him. Now when you lose, gets to like you lose, and now I get to I get to say whatever I want about you. It's like, well, dude, you're also not president anymore. Like, let's just say you lost. Like,
Is this really how much the left hates Donald Trump that,
uh,
like, that's the fuel that you needed to find to be able to bring you
oh,
to a title?
apparently Megan Rapinoe apparently needed it.
Yeah. This is the same Megan Rapinoe that she was saying that, in her after she had already announced her retirement, that she would be okay with trans people joining Women's Team USA.
That's her
So
opinion.
it is
Like,
her opinion, but I feel like that's an easy opinion to state versus
well,
if you
I
were the
think that
last person signed, like,
I think that gets us into our next topic though, which is trans people in sports in general. And I mean, I don't. I think the World Swimming Federation, by doing their open category, has the right I guess mindset about this. It's like, yeah, you have athletes that are trans, and we would like them to be able to compete. But let's just have an open, like, let's just do an open swim, right? So, like, if you're a man and you want to compete, if you're a woman you want to compete, you're in. Like,
I think that's definitely a step in the right
mhm,
direction, but where I think that doesn't really hold water is the NHL tried to have an open hockey game, and I don't know if you saw anything about that, that
mhm,
there was a female to male transitioner that
mhm,
was checked into the boards by a biological male and went through puberty, got testosterone as a male,
mhm.
and the female had to go to the hospital. So,
I
I don't
mean,
know if that's necessarily the answer for all sports to
I
have an
mean,
open competition.
I'm a huge hockey fan, so like any game where someone has to go to the hospital, like I'm there for it. Like
Mm,
it's a high speed, high powered sport. I think it needs a way bigger following than it has, and the numbers are actually going up. So I hold out hope for it. But no, like, do I think that a biological female can compete on the same level as a biological male? No, I don't. But do I think that they should be prevented from trying? No, I don't either.
so it depends on what you're talking about here. So
Mhm,
if you're talking about somebody who was born with, and I'm not trying to at least come across as sexist here, but
mhm.
I think women are born with less just physical power than what men are born with. So you are born with a biological disadvantage when it comes to
Okay.
striking sports or sports that involve like that heavy physical exertion. So I think if you are a biological female and you're not taking tons of testosterone, you're not on a bunch of drugs that would be otherwise banned in that sport, I don't think there should be anything stopping women from trying to compete or females from trying to compete in male sports. But to flip that the other way, where you've got
Mhm,
that William Thomas that you were talking about, and
mhm.
then there's also a couple cyclists that have been. There was somebody that won by like 5 minutes in some like 150-mile race or something. It was a big race, but won by
Well,
5 minutes as a
uh,
male.
so just out of respect for her, I wouldn't use her dead name. It's what, Leah Thomas. I forget how she likes it pronounced, but just to not
Fair,
dead name her. Like,
fair point.
but let's like, but let's just say, look, if, like, hey, I am a biological male, I am transitioning, I'm getting on, you know, I'm getting on hormone blockers, I'm getting on all this stuff, and it's going to make me weaker than the males. Why can't I compete with the female team?
Because you went through puberty as a male, which gave
Okay.
you other advantages. So that's
Okay.
where I think really 4 categories, maybe 5 if you wanna have that open, which I think that's what most men's leagues are actually the open there's no rule in the NBA that says a female is not allowed to
Well, no,
compete on the men's
I
teams.
think the NBA can get around this very easily, mixed teams. And when you say like biological females and hockey, like, if you ever go to a rec league, you see females on the ice all the time. Like,
Correct, because the talent pool for those leagues, it's
mhm,
not stringent enough, the incentives for winning aren't enough where people are gonna
right,
try to stack their teams to make the best
and-
team possible. Rec leagues are
right,
just a bunch of friends getting together that wanna play. But when you're
right.
talking about pro sports and what you just said about the NBA mixed teams, there's no way you can have a mixed team for men and women without having some you must roster at least this many women, they must see at
But
least this many minutes per game.
that is exactly what I'm saying, is like, if you were gonna do a true mixed team, it's gotta be this many men, this many women, those are the teams, right? Like you
and nobody's
can't.
going to care. There's going to be a new NBA that starts that's going to be, hey, we're not going to have any of this woke garbage. You can just the best get to play, the best get
Best,
to compete, and
best
it's
of
going to
luck
be
to you. Best of luck to you in your. Oh,
the
okay.
best watched.
Best of luck to you trying to compete against the NBA. Best of luck.
It's
It's the
not going to
same
happen
thing.
over.
It's the same thing when they said the NFL went woke and then the USFL picked up, right? Like people were excited because there's more football, but if you go look at their viewership, man, they've been teetering on bankruptcy for a while.
For
Like,
sure, for sure. But the NFL didn't stick hard to this. Oh, we're going to have everybody kneeling. They dipped their toe in the water and then realized, oh,
well,
this
hold
isn't
on,
going to boost
hold
viewership.
on. Is
And
is kneeling during the national anthem free speech or not?
I would, so it
Like,
is free speech, but you don't
okay,
get free speech at your job.
okay, why not?
What do you mean why not? So you get free speech at your job in terms of a federal standpoint. So
Correct.
anything that you say, I don't think you should be prosecuted
It
for.
means
It shouldn't
it means
be
that the federal government can't come after me, right? Like that's all the free speech movement does. If my boss wants to come after me, he's in his complete right to do so, right? And I can make.
exactly. And you can't have the federal government telling your boss, "Hey, this is
Right.
what I want you to get this guy fired because he said this."
But
That
but that's
I believe that
exactly
would
but that is exactly what Donald Trump was doing. He's being those people should be fired, this, that, or the other, which again is his opinion, his practice of free speech. I get it. But when you're the executor of the federal branch of or the executive branch of the government, then is that not the government saying you should be fired for practicing your free speech?
I would say there's going to be one big crucial thing missing there, and
Right.
nobody was fired.
Thankfully so. Like nobody should have been fired except for Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, okay. Well, Colin Kaepernick was already a bench player. By the time
I
that
mean,
he started kneeling, Blaine Gabbert was already starting
but
games.
that's the thing is he was a bench player. It shouldn't have mattered like at all. Like, do you like those players? I don't know who their names are half the time. Like, and I'm a football fan, and it's like, oh,
Oh,
such and such is on the bench kneeling during the national anthem, and you guys blew it up into national headlines. So
I don't think you guys like this definitely became a mainstream media, and maybe Donald Trump
no, it became a
just starting
Fox
that war
News
with
thing. It became a Fox News thing, and it became just this absolute.
Fox News is mainstream media.
Just saying, but it's right wing mainstream media. Like,
It's right wing compared to CNN
right.
and MSDNC, but I would not say Fox News is right wing media anymore.
Ooh,
Now, Fox
okay.
News sold out years ago, and that final nail in the coffin was when they canned Tucker Carlson. So
Eh,
Fox News,
I
they're
I
more.
don't think you can cost a network millions of dollars in lawsuit uh, in lawsuit money and keep your job, right? Like, like I don't think you
Uh,
can take your employer for a ride.
tell that to all of the CNN anchors that were talking about Nick Sandman,
Okay,
the kid with the Indian with the drum in his face.
okay. Who was the big one that wouldn't let that go? It was Don Lemon, right? Don Lemon no longer works for CNN.
Okay, but that's Don Lemon didn't get
Like
let
it's
go
that
because
easy.
of no,
Like,
you're way oversimplifying the Don Lemon situation. And Don Lemon is just another garbage human being. Like you hear some of those candid things that he has
the
to
thing
try to
is,
retract. Like
is I don't disagree, but at the same time, I have to like give credit where credit's due. This was the right wing blowing something way out of proportion. You had one player doing it; it made national headlines. He somehow was able to call around, get other players to do it, and then it became this big national story. Like I don't know. And then
yeah, so
you have the head of the executive branch of the government now calling for you to lose your job. Like, can
yeah,
I say
so
that Colin Kaepernick's free speech rights were violated by
if
the
he got
federal
fired,
government? He did get
if he
fired.
actually got fired, but he didn't get fired. He so if you're a garbage human being
Mhm.
and you're just a cancer in the locker room, you're making waves for everybody else, you're
Okay.
not even a great contribution to the team, you're not really going to see any playing time. All you're doing is bringing this media circus. If you get fired for something, it can't be because of all those other reasons I just listed. It's got to be because you're a minority or you took a political stand.
I'm just saying that a lot of people wanted him to lose his job, and he lost his job.
Okay, but I just gave you 5 reasons why he should have lost his
And
job outside of First
I'm not
Amendment.
saying Colin Kaepernick was a great player by any stretch of the imagination. Like there are backups in the NFL right now that can definitely outperform him. But the fact that he doesn't even have a backup job tells me that it teams don't want the political heat, right? And to circle this back around to like the trans issue, like I I don't understand why this is also such a big issue. Like you like to cite the statistic that it's less than 1% of the population, right? So you're telling me that less than 1% of our population of people that want to compete at the pro level of sports are saying I I I want to compete with the gender that I specify, and you're blowing it up into something national.
Okay, I'm not blowing it up into something national, but you still have people that have a significant advantage over their biological counterparts or,
Okay.
I don't know the PC words to say men versus women these days, but
Mm,
if you were born a male, you have a significant physiological advantage over females. So even if you are that 1% going out and playing in female sports, they have that advantage carries over. And that's what you have. So one of the cyclists that I didn't mention the name, I had a Nahua Rin. I don't
mhm.
know. It's a Korean person that
Okay.
they competed in cycling, and their quote after winning, "I am not proud of myself at all. I believe other transgender athletes would feel the same way. They may not want to admit it, but they're being selfish. There is no honor in an athlete as an athlete in that."
Okay.
And I think that's the way people should feel, but when you have this the other I didn't write down the quote, but Austin Killips, and that's not dead naming, that's what all the
Okay.
articles had this person's name as. Austin Killips came in saying, "I'm so proud," like the exact opposite of what this other cyclist was saying. This Austin comes out and, "I'm just so proud that I was able
Well,
to."
so this is like the thing that I think the right wing doesn't tend to understand is these people aren't generally doing this to cheat. Like it's not like, oh, a pro level athlete is now going, well, I can't compete anymore, so I'm just gonna transition and compete with women. That's not what's happening. It's
You don't
people
think
that
that ever happens?
I don't think so. No, I would be extremely surprised if you could find me an instance of someone that transitioned just to be able to compete against women.
Someone that would admit to that is very
Right.
different than somebody just
I'm
doing it
just
and saying,
I'm
"This is
just
what I
saying.
believe."
Like the thing is you have people every day that transition. Again, less than 1% of the population, but make the decision to transition, right? And no matter who that is, like they should be able to continue living their lives the way they want to. Like I, I'm not here to be like, oh, we should strip away their right to compete just because they decided to change their gender, right? Like I don't see the issue here. That and it's an issue that hasn't made its way to pro level sports. The closest it's gotten is college level sports, right? There's not like Kobe's dead. Uh, sorry, Kobe Bryant family,
It's too
but
soon.
it's too soon. Uh, like I mean, Dwayne Wade. I don't. Is he still in the league?
No, he retired a
No,
few years
he's
ago.
retired, right.
I
But if
if you want,
Dwayne
like,
Wade
the head
I just
honcho,
wanna
like,
pick somebody that's
yeah,
not currently
Giannis
playing, like
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
yeah, am I gonna see, like, Dwayne Wade, like, show back up in the WNBA transitioning just because he wants to play? No, I'm not gonna see that.
But
Like, you know what I mean? Like
you're talking about somebody who's at the peak, who's already a
Mhm.
first ballot Hall of Famer.
Right.
Like, there's no incentive for him to take, however many $1,000,000 pay cut to go play in a league that nobody watches.
Right.
So, it's not the Dwayne Wades and the Giannis's that you have to keep your eyes on. It's the G League players. It's the guys
Right.
that realize, "I'm never
Well,
gonna see any playtime in the
so
NBA," and they Juwan man it, and then they go play in the WNBA.
I mean, so, again, if there were instances of that happening, then, like, I would be with you, but I don't see that happening, right? Like, I don't
Yet.
well, again, you're saying that nobody watches women's sports, but then you're like, but these players might transition and then people will start watching women's sport. It's kind of a jump, right? It's kind of a fair leap. That and the instances we do see of this with the Leah Thomas stuff is uh college athlete. unpaid, like
College
like
athlete, the NCAA just lost that. The college, like student athletes are going to start getting student athletes to say it like Cartman,
right.
and
Well,
but they're going
that's
to
what I'm
start getting
saying
paid
is
now.
at the time she's unpaid and she's competing against people with the same estrogen levels as she has. Granted, hers is synthetic, but and again, you can say like, "Oh, well, was a male swimmer." I'm like, "All right, well, so you're saying she can't compete at all? Or you're going to make her compete with the males who now she's significantly weaker than because she's gone on hormone blockers?"
So how come I can't decide that I identify as 12 years old? So I want to go play in the
Mm.
12-year-old rec league.
So I think we've discussed this before. One, your age is your age, right? Like nobody disputes someone's age. It's based on your date of birth, right?
Dude, 20 years ago, people
Okay.
would have said your sex is your sex. Like you can't dispute that your like we can take your DNA and we can see, well, I don't know about 20 years ago DNA technology, but you'd still be able to take somebody's DNA and tell
Okay.
whether they are biologically a male, a female, or that 1% of 1% where they
Okay.
can't. So the age argument, like I think age makes far less of a difference than biological sex does when we're talking
It
about
depends.
humanity.
It depends under the law, right? Like, are there laws that restrict things you can do because of your age?
There are, but I mean, there's
Right.
been laws that have restricted things that you can do
So,
because of
so
your
you're
sex.
telling me that someone's gender is more consequential than their age, but not under the law. It's
Yeah, yeah, because it's a population of all men or all women means that population disappears in a single generation, right? Like you can't reproduce. It makes much less of a difference
okay.
biologically for someone who's
But
50 versus someone who's 30
again,
versus someone who's
you're gone to this
15.
like extreme scenario, right? Where it's like, oh, like we're gonna execute all men and just leave nothing but women. Of course, our generations would disappear within a generation, right? But what I am saying is like, look, you yourself claim that this is less than 1% of the population.
This isn't a claim. Like this is like I'm not just pulling numbers out of my ass. Like these are definitely numbers that are cited
Okay, so
in.
those are the numbers of the people that actually go through like chemical transition. How many like biological males out there do you think actually live their lives as females and actually never go through a transition?
I
Like
don't know
those
because
people are
honestly,
underreported, right? Because we don't know.
but
Like
those people are inconsequential to me in my life, and
correct.
there
So
will
why do
never
you
be an
care?
issue. So why I care is going to be again. It's funny for me to say nobody cares about women's sports and then say, well, because women's sports, I care
Right.
about women's sports in
Right.
the
I
same
care about
episode
women's
here.
sports. Like
But it's not so much I care about the women's sports, it's I care about the women in those sports
right.
that they're getting cheated, and then the other half of it is kids, which we can save the kids for another topic and just stick to sports
Well,
here, but
I think that's me and you. We've had the trans conversation off camera, obviously, and I think me and you can find common ground when it comes to kids because that's a hard one, man. Because again, your stance on it is parental rights, except for this, right? So it's like, man, I get you have to draw the line somewhere, but it's kind of
there was that couple I actually just saw this surfacing. I think it was
right,
in 2020, 2019,
right,
where these people weren't feeding their child. It was some,
yeah,
like, 6 months old baby that was 8 pounds when it died.
right,
And you see there's just their reactions to being told, like, they're gonna like they're gonna be life
yeah,
sentences and just this, like, shocked,
correct,
like, "Wait, I killed somebody, I'm going to jail for life?" But
right,
their whole argument was that it was religious beliefs, that their child just needed water, and that is child abuse. So you don't have universal rights as a parent if you're
correct,
causing harm to your child.
correct.
And I would say giving your child unnecessary drugs or
But
making
again,
these permanent
you
changes.
have to define harm, right? Because like again, psychologists would say like if you yell at your child, if you spank your child, you are doing harm to them long term. But societally, we don't view that as harm, right? So it again, you have to be really careful when it's like, okay, the government can step in here, but not here, right? Like you really that has to be black and white. Like
It for sure definitely, and transing your kid definitely does fall into that gray area
right,
where if your kid says, "I wanna wear this girly shirt," and it's a male child,
right.
I don't know. I feel like that's definitely parental rights, whether or not you allow the kid to wear like
And the
whatever
thing is,
gender or
again,
makeup.
I agree, but does that extend to hormone therapy?
And that's where
Like
that's where we're gonna.
that's where the problem is, right? Is like, does that extend to, can I prevent my child from going through puberty? Like,
And
I think that's an ethical question, and I think it's
but
hard to.
is it a societal question for like, or is it just on an individual basis?
Well, that's the thing, is like, this is one of the areas where I got to kind of go to, well, I guess individual rights kind of win out, right? Because it like, societally, I know like what my views are on it, but societally, I don't I don't see how we can come to a consensus on it, because there are trans kids that exist. There are kids that wish to transition.
There are,
So
but there's I think, and I would be pulling numbers out of my ass, so I don't want to even
right,
put
right.
numbers on it. But there is some number of kids that would transition and then want to detransition. There's kids, and this was another one. I had the link for it, but I don't know if we want to play other videos on here to like have that. But there's this Wesley Hunt. You know that name at all? He's one
Yeah,
of
I know
your,
this thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a Texas congressman, and he had this food pyramid that he brings up at one of the congressional powwows that they do.
Hmm.
And he has a food pyramid that's made by his kids, his like 7 and 5 year old kids. And
Right.
it's ice cream for breakfast, ice cream for lunch, ice cream. Like it's just all junk food, all candy. And this
Right.
is what kids think like. So you're telling me that you want a kid that's 7 years old to be making decisions for that are going to affect them for the rest of their lives. And I'm saying that's what's wrong. It's a parent's job to decide what's going to be good for kids for the rest of their lives, and it's a
Right.
parent's job to steer them into the most successful direction.
And the thing is what you're telling me is, yes, like, it is a parent's job to try to steer their kids in whatever direction they deem appropriate, right?
I tried
But
to word that as vaguely as possible.
right, like, yeah, I'm trying to avoid that as vaguely as possible. But at the same time, it's like, well, is it the kid making the decision to transition, or is it the parents transitioning the kid? Like,
And
that's going to be the thing, because psychologists will tell you that before, like, most children, they'll just put on puberty blockers, right? Again, because it's reversible, it's not a life altering deal. Now,
depends on how long you're on the puberty ball.
there's some weird science behind it, and I do not claim to be a medical expert at all. But what I am saying is that is deemed less harmful than a full transition, which I think we would both agree on. Uh,
Less harmful, correct, but
yes, less
harmful.
harmful. But that's the thing, is, if growing up, if I bring up my child and I put them on puberty blockers, right? Is that child abuse? Like, that's the question. Like, is does that constitute child abuse?
I
And
think it's a more nuanced question than that.
well, I mean,
I don't think you can turn it into just this yes or no.
well, at the end of the day, it is, under the law, it's going to be a yes or no. Like, under the law isn't granular like that. It's not going to be like, well, under these specific circumstances, under these specific, like, it doesn't work that way. It's, is this child abuse? And I think conservatives have come down really hard on, yes, it is. Um, I think they do a piss poor job of making that case. And I also think that the party of individual freedom is now trying to restrict the freedom of a parent. But at the same
Well,
time,
you can't say you have to make a binary decision. There's no granularity. You got to make a yes or a no. This is black or it's white, and you're forcing someone to make an answer and say, "Well, shoot, like I really want to side on individual freedoms, but you're telling me I have to say either this is child abuse or it's not."
right,
Well, I can't say this isn't child abuse, so I guess I have to say it is. And then you're
right,
telling me, "Oh, well, you're the party of individual
right.
freedoms."
But that's the thing, is like, the trans debate is hard, mainly because of the child element, right? Now, if we just say, hey, like, everybody is their biological sex until they're 18, and then they get to decide whether or not to transition, that's fine. Uh, I think that's going to have some. I think that's going to have some effects on, like, the teenage suicide rate and things like that. But it's going to come down to what we can live with. My personal opinion on this is we don't touch it. We leave it alone. It's a parent's decision with their child, and that's fine. But societally, what we have to come to terms with is okay, these people exist now, and we have to decide where they fit in to sports if they want to play in them, right? So it's
So bringing this back to sports, I feel like we're almost to a
right,
point where we'll be able to agree on something here. So
right.
I think we've discussed that words evolve, right?
Mhm,
And the word woman has evolved. That you can absolutely make the argument that in the 50s, woman had a very set definition. It meant an adult biological female,
mhm.
and that's what it was. But because words change, now it's this person that identifies with traditionally feminine roles, and that's fine. But the problem is you've got all these structures and all these systems that were built off of the word women, meaning a biological female. So if you're going to change the definition of something, you can't then turn around and then tell all these structures that are built off of that original definition that you're not allowed to update your rules and update as this definition evolves.
I
And
mean,
I think that's probably where my issue with trans playing women's sports is.
mm, the thing is I don't think they have to change, right? Like it's more of oh well, I want to keep trans women out of sports is really the underlying goal here.
Not at
And
all. Not at all. It's more we can't have biological males or the original definition of men competing against the original definition of women. That's why those leagues were originally created. So I think if we wanted to stick to the spirit of that division and
oh,
saying that there is a league for people that didn't get this blast of testosterone during puberty, didn't develop all this extra muscle and bone density, I think that's the more honest way to try to separate the leagues.
okay. So a fully transitioned biological female, how do you tell? Like
So,
are we getting into like we have to test hormones? Like is
well, you
it
just
the
make them
honor
take off their
system?
underwear. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
let's say is it the
The
honor system? Are
yeah.
we checking under the hood? You know, like
No, you can take a scraping of cheek cells, like just that inside the cheek, and this is the lead.
and,
And
and who's the
just like they do for the Olympics,
And again,
I think
who's the South African runner? I forget what her name was, but she was born with an abnormality where she overproduced testosterone, right? So she's like a super masculine female, but is a biological female. Like, can she not play? Like,
edge cases will always
right,
exist and they would be handled on a case by case. But if you're trying to say we need this sweeping rule that's going to apply to what are there 9 billion people on the planet now, uh,
right.
you're asking for the impossible and then saying because you can't do it, well, we can't do anything.
Well,
And,
no,
and I think if we can account for 8 billion people, that sounds
the thing I'm
reasonable.
advocating for is I just want people to be able to live their lives, right? Like, if you want to play soccer, go for it. If you want to play football, go for it. Like, and I think robbing people of a specific part of their lives or like an experience that they want to experience is just fundamentally wrong.
Let's say that you want to be a bodybuilder, like you're some scrawny 5'5", 120-pound dude, and you want big muscles. So you start taking all these steroids, and now
Mhm.
you want to go compete in some competition, but you're not allowed to because they don't allow steroid usage.
Okay.
So you have to make a choice. Do I either live my best life and be the person that I feel I was born to be, or do I abide by the rules of this competition?
Again, it's the consequences of your actions. And what I'm saying is I don't think what I'm saying is like if I want to go play for the NCAA, right? I have to abide by the NCAA's rules. And but if I meet all of the NCAA's rules and it doesn't bar trans people, and I'm good enough to make a team, why can't I, or to get on a team? Why can't I compete?
It goes back to what I was saying about the definition of woman, that
Okay.
I think the NCAA we're still in this transition period
Mhm.
where this is all very new, and to tell an organization, "Hey, we're gonna start having biological males compete with the biological females, figure it out right now, the competition is in a week, and get it right on your first try." I don't know. That sounds
And the
unfair.
thing is,
I think
yeah,
this is going to take a
there
few
are going to
years
be
to.
growing. I think there are going to be growing pains and things like that. But what I am trying to do here is say, like, look, you've been given notice. Like, there are trans athletes right now competing in college sports. So at the pro level, you know what's coming, and you have time to do whatever you need to do. Right now, do I feel bad that it more or less snuck up on college sports? Right, like it wasn't an issue, then all of a sudden it was. Like, do I feel bad? Sure, a little bit, but I think their response to it has been overwhelmingly positive. Like they were like, "Hey, we have people that wish to compete. We're going to give them an avenue to compete."
I think overwhelmingly positive is definitely the wrong take when you look at
Well,
the Thomas, the swimmer.
well,
But
again, you're going to have very opinionated people on both sides, and when it comes to like the NCAA rules and stuff like that, the NCAA rules allowed for it. So you're going to be pissed off about the rules, but your rules allowed for it, right?
again, it's the rules allow for it because the language is outdated.
Correct.
As the terms have evolved, we need these rules to evolve with them.
Right. And now the question is well, do we change the rules or not? Right. And the NCAA said, you know what, we are going to change the rules, but we're going to change the rules in such a way that still allows a trans athlete to compete, which I'm all for. Right. So like they're worried about what they call the sanctity of the sport. Sure. Like if you want to split male and female and then make this third category, I'm all for it. Like, and
It's more
definitely
about it's more about fairness than sanctity. Like it's about creating a fair playing field that
okay.
I'm in favor of people being using that
It,
steroid example. I would love to see a baseball league or a UFC league. Like
it
let them
is
do whatever drugs they want.
it is never about fair. Michael Phelps has a wingspan longer than his body. It is not about fair.
It's
Like
about creating a fair playing field.
right.
And
It's
if this is what you were born with, that's what you were
okay.
born with.
It's never about fair. It's more like what is going to sell tickets, what's going to make people sit in seats. And America likes winners, and we don't care if it's fair or not.
America does like winners.
We
And
do like winners.
speaking of winners, so I think we've hit the
Oh
trans
God.
topic here pretty deep. So if you want to talk
Yeah.
about probably the biggest winner in America, Donald John Trump,
Yeah. I mean,
how's that for a segue?
I was about to say winning the indictment award. I don't know how many are we up to now, and there's one pending in Georgia.
Uh,
So this is
I lost track, but I mean that speaks to just how absolutely terrified the left is of Donald Trump. How
mm,
much he lives rent free, just the rot consumes. Donald Trump. I mean, how many episodes can we get without talking to like? Neither one of us, I think, really likes the
it,
guy, but I mean, it's every episode. I feel like he's coming up.
like I feel like we should do like one episode where we just intentionally don't talk about Donald Trump because it's every week there's something new in the headlines. Like the case pending out of Georgia has gotten really interesting. The cases that have been brought so far are still really interesting, and it shows you like the mindset of the president in his final days, right? Like leading up to the January 6th event. Like it's I don't know, it's getting pretty impressive. Like how much we know now.
I think it's interesting that you find all this stuff so interesting that you as a leftist, just all of these new indictments, like you just can't get enough of it. Like it's Christmas morning every single day.
I wouldn't
And
say that. There's a couple of, like the one out of New York. I think okay, it's financial fraud. You can get most businessmen in the United States in financial fraud. Oh darn, he's going to pay a fine and be fine, right? Like that's literally how that's going to be handled up on Wall Street. Is Donald Trump's going to pay a fine and be done with it?
so I
Like
remember listing them all out. Like I've got them in my notes somewhere
right,
here, all of
right.
them. But
Mhm.
the only one that I think holds any water is the classified documents case. Everything else I think is smoke and mirrors. It's distractions to try to keep Trump off the campaign trail and derail
The
his
thing is like
campaign.
the classified documents case, which we've covered on the show before, is just Trump being stupid. Like, no, the Presidential Records Act does not allow you to do what you were doing. And the fact that you were told that and then politely asked several times to turn them back in, and you didn't, and you made every effort to hide it, which we know you did. Like, at this point, just fess up to it, get the slap on the wrist, and call it a day. Like I don't understand.
Maybe I think there is a lot more to it than that, but ultimately, if you gave me $1,000 and told me I had to make a bet, like I'm betting he's guilty on that one.
Right.
But when you talk about this Georgia one, so there was a video that resurfaced recently on Twitter, and just real quick on the Georgia, I feel like most everybody already like knows why he's being prosecuted for Georgia, but it was the pressure that he was putting on uh
Brad Raffensperger.
Raffensperger,
Yeah.
whatever the Georgia, what was he the I don't not the governor. Is he the governor there?
No, he's the Secretary of State.
Okay. Okay, and there was something, yeah, in charge of the election. And that's what, yeah,
Right,
Secretary of
right,
State's in charge of the
right.
Brian Kemp. That's the guy that's the governor
Mhm.
there.
Right.
But he's putting all this pressure on Georgia to try to overturn the election, essentially.
He said,
And
"Find me this exact number of votes."
find me the votes. I know you have them.
Right.
And when did that call happen? Like when was all that happening? Like December, I think, maybe even early January.
Right. It was Donald Trump was trying to contest the vote, and it was, I mean, it was either late November, early December. He puts in a call to Brad Raffensperger, and Brad was like, "What do you want me to do?" And he's like, "I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to find," and it was a very specific number of votes. Like Donald Trump knew how many he needed, right?
Sure.
And I mean, I
So
think
what's illegal about this? Is that
I
he knew that he didn't get those votes and he's trying to pressure him?
the thing is it's not it, the call itself. I don't find it illegal, but it does show that Donald Trump was trying to get a Republican, somebody who he thought was on his side, to do something wrong, to do something egregious, right? And
Because Donald Trump believed that he didn't get those votes.
okay, I don't care what Donald Trump believed. Donald Trump
But
knew from all
that
of his
makes
advisors.
all the difference in the world.
Oh,
So
okay.
if I'm calling telling you I need you to find votes and I truly believe that those votes exist,
Okay.
I don't think that I don't think that that's me doing something
So
wrong to try to get you to do something
so
egregious. I think that
is it wrong to have your attorneys reach out to Republicans in what, Coffee County, and have them break in to go look at the voting machines or to try to get the code from the voting machines? Is that wrong? Because that's what the case in Georgia is really going to hinge on. And I mean, the documents that were released today show pretty clearly that Donald Trump's attorneys were coordinating with these groups to get them to break in to Coffee County offices to get their hands on these voting machines.
so it definitely
That's
is
illegal,
crossing a
right?
it is
Right?
crossing a line.
Now,
But the video that I was talking about that surfaced, I wanna say the date was November 8th that I saw on this.
right.
It was one of Donald Trump's final tweets. Uh, it's a video of somebody in a Georgia office that's got so I'm on call right now for my other job that, like, Corey and I work, and, like, I keep looking down, like, I get emails that I gotta at least, but,
Right, right.
so this video surfaces on Twitter that it's Georgia. They're saying, "Hey, we found a bunch of ballots." Like, "Oh, we thought these were counted, but they weren't counted." And it's Georgia election officials, somebody that said like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to be here. Like the public doesn't know about this." And it shows that there is at least legitimacy in raising questions. And I don't think that those votes weren't counted. I don't think there's a lot of like, yeah, there's a little bit of smoke, but I don't think just because there's smoke, there actually is fire. But I think what it really shows is that Donald Trump believed that those votes existed. That was Donald Trump tweeting a week after the election, long before he ever tried to contact Georgia, saying, like, "Look, here's the proof."
Okay. So there's this thing that we don't operate on. It's called faith, and we don't operate on it. And the reason we don't is because when your attorney general comes to you and says, you lost, when your attorneys, who you then turn around and fire, tell you that you lost and that you're not going to get the votes, I don't care what you believe at that point. You've been told by numerous people at this point in time that there is no way for you to continue being president of the United States. Your own your own vice president, who you call and pressure to try to keep you in power, says, "Look, I don't have the authority to overturn this." I I don't care what you believe at that point. Like I just
So
don't. I don't. Like
so we're supposed to believe like you play this game with me with Biden all the time where you say we're supposed to believe that Biden is this mastermind
right.
Biden crime family and at the same time he's an idiot and should be
Mhm.
removed from power. And I'm going to say the same thing about Trump here that he's this arrogant
I don't
and
I don't think I've
just
ever I
he
don't think
thinks
I've
he's
ever
the
called Trump a mastermind, but
no, but I'm saying, like, that Biden is the criminal mastermind, not Trump. But
oh,
the 2 different Trumps game. Essentially,
right.
that you're saying that Trump is this arrogant, it just ne believes he's the greatest thing that's since sliced bread, and that also at the same time, we're supposed to believe that Trump knew that he lost the election, and
Yeah.
he's just trying to find ways to overturn it.
Yes,
And it
the number of people that have now come out and has been like, "No, I have told the president that there is no way that he was going to stay in the White House, that the
and
votes
that
were not
Donald
there."
Trump so Donald Trump believed that, and now he's making criminal calls to Georgia
No,
saying, "We need to
that's
find these votes."
that's the thing, and that's why in the charges, right? That's why in the charges they go down the list. All of these people, like everybody in your cabinet, has more or less said, "Look, there's nothing you can do here. Like you don't have the votes. You're not going to get the votes. You're not going to find the votes." Like it just, at that point, I don't care what you believe. Like everybody has told you you've lost, and you're going, well, I believe I won. Really?
So I don't care if you don't care
Not a not a not a not
what
a
he
not a
believes,
speck of doubt in there. Like
but it's that's what the entire crime that's being alleged, that's what all of that hinges upon, is that Trump actually knew that he lost and that's what he was doing
and
wrong
the thing
was
is like trying to pigeonhole it into what Trump believes is not what the case here. If you actually go read the indictment is strictly Donald Trump's actions. Now you can say, well, he did that because he believed. I'm like, yeah, but once you put your beliefs into action, that's where legality comes in, right?
but there's nothing criminal about calling somebody and saying, "Hey, this thing that I believe to be true, I want you to go
Is
prove it."
okay. Can you assert your political pressure on someone in state? Can you compel someone to do something illegal? Can I say, hey, Jeff, I need you to go into Walmart. I need you to steal this thing.
But I would know that steal like, if I told if you
Right.
were telling me, "Hey, Jeff, like, this is something that I left my backpack in
Right.
Walmart," and I go in there and I see a backpack where you said it would be, I'm like, "Alright, well, this must be Corey's backpack," and then I go grab it, and,
And you grab it and you get arrested on your way out the door. And you go,
and I
well,
s
no, this is my friend's backpack, right?
like,
And
he didn't tell me there was something illegal in here, he didn't tell me I
right.
was stealing it, he
But see,
didn't tell
that's
me
the
he
thing.
put DVDs inside of here.
But that's the thing though, is like I asked you to go in and steal something and then you didn't do it. But that me asking for it is still illegal.
Because you're
That is
asking me to
crazy.
do something outright illegal, but
That is what that is why Brad Raffensperger went and said the DOJ needs to hear this phone call
but saying,
because
like,
what he
if
was
you're Donald
asking for was illegal. Like,
if you're Donald Trump in this situation, and I'm Brad Raffensperger, right? Like that's what you're saying is you're the one asking me for something.
mhm,
And if you knew that there was stolen merchandise inside of that backpack,
mhm.
that's very different than I I just thought my lunch was in that like I didn't put something illegal in there. And then by the time I get to the backpack, somebody else put something illegal in there. Like if
No,
you were coming from a good faith place,
the
then I
thing
don't think you did anything illegal.
is you're muddying the water here. I firmly believe that you can find that you, Jeff, can find me what 5,641 votes.
We're
And
talking
you go
about the swamp of politics, baby. There are
and
no
you go
unmuddied waters.
you go, you don't have them. And I go, I believe that you can find me these votes, right?
Because I just saw
So
this video where there was a ton of missing votes, and I
okay,
think we can find the number I need to
and you
win.
go, no, you don't have them, Mr. President. And I go, well, you're gonna find them. Like, at what point did I cross into illegality? Like,
It that call sounds about as much that Donald Trump would be guilty on something like that versus, "Hey, Hunter, how's it going? It's Joe. How's the weather over there?
right,
Those
right.
guys at Burisma treating you okay?"
Mhm.
Like, you didn't talk about any business, like, you just talked about the weather. You just prove that Hunter Biden can call you at any time and answer. And I don't want to turn this into a
But,
Hunter
but,
Biden thing,
but
but
again,
it, there's not a lot there. There's smoke for sure, but there is no fire with the Georgia stuff.
okay. I think I would highly recommend if you haven't read it yet, because I know it just came out today, but the Coffee County stuff I think is pretty damning. It doesn't directly point to Trump, but it does point to the legal team that he hired, where they were reaching out to people to see if they could get them to break into the offices so that they could get their hands on Dominion voting equipment.
Then prosecute the legal team. Like
Well,
I don't understand why you would prosecute
well,
Trump on something like that.
I mean, Rudy Giuliani has been permanently disbarred from practicing law. So,
Okay.
like, I mean, there's one. Uh, but no, I firmly expect that Georgia will probably get the rest.
And do you think when lawyers are going to go pursue a legal strategy, they consult their non-legal expert clients and say, "Hey, this is what I want to do. Like, can I get your sign off?"
Well,
Because if
probably
that
not.
link doesn't exist, then you got nothing on Trump.
But hold on. So you're telling me that your own attorney general isn't an attorney? Like your own attorney general who leads your justice department tells you, yeah, you're not going to find the votes. They don't exist.
Again, I mean
Like,
that's two different things from what I was saying. So I still don't think Donald Trump is going to believe anybody other than Donald Trump. I think he listens only to the voice in his head. And
okay.
when we're talking about is Trump guilty, no, it sounds like Rudy Giuliani and maybe some of his legal team is guilty, and it sounds like appropriate punishments have already been handed out for that. But I don't think Donald Trump is going to be guilty of everything that Rudy Giuliani does, even if it's on Donald Trump's behalf.
I don't know. Wait, we're going to see how these play out, but I think Donald Trump is way more culpable because what's being alleged here is more or less criminal conspiracy, right? Like you're going to have to
Rico,
prove
basically,
you're going to have to prove that Donald Trump knew about it or that he asked for it. And
and yeah,
well,
asked for it.
and the fact that there are like unindicted co-conspirators in a lot of this tells me that some of those unindicted co-conspirators are working with the Justice Department, and they're probably pointing the finger at Donald Trump. So,
Probably, but it's just like that case about the parents with the
yeah, it's a
8 pound,
RICO
six
case.
months
Yeah,
old. It's the Rico case for Trump, but
right.
those parents that killed their kid and then
Mhm.
said no, it was religious beliefs. The guy gets convicted, and when the lady's on trial, she's pointing the finger at the guy, saying, "No, he was abusive. He did all like it's all his
Right.
fault." So I think people are going to say whatever
Yeah.
they can to get
You,
themselves out of trouble.
yeah,
So
you
these
can be shocked.
co-conspiracy.
You can be shocked all you want when the sentence is handed out, but what you did was still illegal, right? Like, but my deeply held religious belief said that I shouldn't feed my kid. Like societally, we don't care about that. You didn't feed your kid until they starved to death. Like, like why is this any different? Like, why because it's Donald J. Trump is this different? What you
Well,
did was still illegal. I don't care why you did it. It's still
so
illegal.
in one case, somebody actually died,
Okay.
and in another case,
I
the
mean,
guy
do you want me
Donald
to
Trump
blame
said, I want you to
you?
do this," and then
You
nothing
want me to
happened.
blame the January 6th or the cop that died on January 6th on Donald Trump?
You already do.
I do. Like
Yeah,
100% I do.
I think you even blame Ashley Babbitt's death on Donald Trump.
I do.
Yeah, and that's how much in a cult you are.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, she wouldn't have been there had Donald Trump not riled up the base and then sick them on the Capitol building.
Okay, so how is it not Donald Trump's dad's fault?
What do you
If
mean?
Donald Trump's dad never had Donald Trump as a child, then Donald Trump never would have been president, and then Ashley Babbitt never would have died. So
Yeah. I
really
mean,
it's Adam and Eve's fault.
I yeah, I mean, if you want to go all the way back, but the thing is, I'm not saying that Donald Trump went out there, whipped his supporters up into a frenzy, and then sicked them on the Capitol building.
You mean
I
when
don't
he was
understand what's
saying
hard to understand for right wingers about this, but that's how that happened.
you mean when he was saying peacefully? I think there was actually video of him when they were at the I don't remember
Okay.
where they marched from, the protest site going to the Capitol, but he was
They
doing the speech and he
those people over there are stealing from you. Those people over there are doing this, and the other to you. Those people over there are making sure that your voices will never be heard again, and we should go down there and do something about it. Long pause, but make sure you go down there peacefully.
okay, so
Oh,
if
am I
that's
still liable? Or
if,
did I
if
just cover my ass?
I still think no, but if that's the bar that you want to set, then I want to see you going after I think like Maxine Waters and Kamala
Oh,
Harris
and I
and
do. If you
anybody that made claims about BLM saying this is what they're doing to you, they're stealing from you, the reason that you're poor is because of them, but march peacefully. So anybody that died in the BLM riots, which I guarantee you the death count of the BLM riots is higher than January 6th, all of the
So
property damage that was
you're
done
telling
during
me like Maxine Waters went to what's the Kyle Rittenhouse city?
Kenosha, but not
Telling me Maxine
specifically.
Waters went to Kenosha, held a conference, and was like, "Hey, like the cops are terrible here, this, that, and the other, and their police station's right over there. It's just right there."
I don't know if Maxine Waters said that specifically about Kenosha, but
Okay.
if the bar that you're setting is anybody that was using that incitement, which I think Twitter was the main platform. I don't think
Right.
they went to the Marriott and got the conference room there. But if that's the bar that you're setting, then everybody that was inciting these BLM riots, why hasn't a single person been brought up on
I
charges?
actually would love to see more people get brought up on charges for the BLM riots. Like, I feel
So if
like
you would
that's
love to
something we can agree on.
so why isn't it happening though? Like why nobody's even getting a slap on the wrist, nobody's even getting canceled, nobody's I think Twitter accounts barely even got suspended because that was under Jack Dorsey days.
I don't know. Let's call up the state legislatures and ask why they're not looking into this.
Yeah, I think you'll get further with calling up the George Soros office.
Hmm. Yeah,
All
because
all these
George
Soros
Soros
appoint
definitely pays my bills.
all the Soros
I
appointed
would kill for
DAs
some George Soros money.
or Soros backed DAs rather.
I
That
mean,
that's I think the answer why.
what are they going to say? Like, oh, we've decided not to prosecute.
What they're gonna say, the reasons why, and what they're gonna say, it's the same thing as what you were trying to say. I don't remember earlier now something about trans in sports if they're trying to do it for like why they're making
Mhm.
that change in sports. It's the same thing for these DAs. You know what they're gonna say when you ask them that question why. There's no way to verify whether you're lying or not unless we've got you on record with somebody else, and I don't know.
I
It's
mean,
tough to prove intent.
but that's the thing, right? Is the problem with the Donald Trump stuff is that he's very much on camera. He's very much in the public eye doing all of this. And what's weird is he's making these phone calls and stuff from the Oval, which all of those communications are recorded. So we have all of that too. So,
Mm, I feel like there shouldn't be like just as a like as president, I feel like you should have some lines that are not recorded. I'd
I
be
mean,
surprised if there wasn't.
possibly, but he calls Brad down in Georgia, and that was completely recorded. Brad turned it over, but we also have the recording from the White House too. So obviously,
Yeah,
Donald
I'm
Trump
not.
didn't think what he was doing was wrong. Like,
I would say if anything, that points to his innocence. Like there was no trying to cover his tracks. Like he
mm,
posted that video on Twitter saying, "Look at these votes. Here's the proof that Georgia is cheating," and then calls up Georgia and says, "Hey, your people are
then
cheating."
and then Georgia, who is run by Republicans, does their own investigation and they find nothing. Like, I don't understand.
Okay,
I do not
it's a,
understand how
it's
your
it's
Justice
not a
Department goes,
it's not
"Hey,
a crime. It's not a crime to be mistaken.
okay, it's a crime to act on it's a crime to perform your actions as if something's true when it's not." I think the Donald Trump stuff, it's weird only because the amount, but I definitely think he's guilty of most of it, if not all of it. Like,
So the amount, I think this is all like I said, smoke and mirrors. This is trying to
right,
blow up his campaign. And this Georgia election, I saw something on Twitter that there was like "We want Trump" was trending because there was some Ohio or Iowa chant where people were chanting that. So
right.
then, of course, the left has to try to corrupt everything, and they take the "We want Trump" and "We want Trump in jail." We want Trump 2024 versus
Uh,
1941 to
my favorite one
2024.
is lock him up. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's actually one of my Wi-Fi names.
right,
This is a
lock him
bunch of
up.
Trump supporters in my apartment
Right.
complex, and I just like to troll people. But um, no, we want Trump was trending on Twitter, and one of the things that I saw was there was like 11 point something million files of discovery that Jack Smith and his team were going to be turning over to Trump.
Right.
And the take on that was just sit there for a second and think. They have 11.1 million dollar 11.1 million documents of evidence against you. How guilty do you have to be to have 11.1 million? And that's just such a disconnected take. The whole point of 11.1 million documents in a discovery turnover is to overwhelm your opposition. Hey, here's 1,000 documents that are that actually mean something,
Okay.
that are, I can't
But the
think of
thing
the
is,
R word,
but the thing
relative,
is, you're assuming that all of those documents are not relevant, right?
relevant.
You're
That's the word I was
yeah,
looking for.
you're making the assumption that 11.1 million documents are somehow not relevant to Trump's case because that would be the tactic of overwhelming. But in this specific case, I think 11.1 million documents might all point to the fact that Trump's guilty as hell. Like
And there's Exhibit B that you're in the cult because throwing a bunch of discovery documents, that just sounds like
The
lawyering
the thing is
101. Like if
the thing is like I what I would love is if after the trial's over, of course, because they can't release the documents while before the trial goes on. But after the trial's over, release all of it to the public. Like if he's guilty, show him guilty as sin. Let the public pour through 11.1 million documents.
if he's guilty, for sure that'll happen.
Right.
But if he's not guilty, the 24-hour news cycle, oh, there was nothing here. Well, we're already on to
Right.
Billionaires in a Submarine Part 2.
Well, I mean, we're getting into like the nitty gritty of like law, and I think but the YouTube show like Legal Eagle does a really good job like breaking down like what these indictments mean and what they're looking for. If I mean, if our viewers haven't checked it out, definitely go over there. But I mean, he's not a leftist by any means. He's just like, here are the charges. Here is like what we can assume is going to happen in court, right? Um, but what I'm getting at, I guess, is because this is getting so granular and the charges, we're gonna have to do like an entire episode on just uh, the Donald Trump indictments. Like it is all over the place. It is throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks, right? And the thing is like I understand where you're coming from, where it's like, well, it just seems like this is a whole bunch. The problem is like Trump has probably done some, if not all of it. Like it, the thing is like if he wasn't as high profile as he is, this would be a normal Tuesday. Like you know what I mean? Like this would just be a normal day at the office. But he's high profile. So all of these indictments, all of this stuff, it's making headline news.
I don't think it's just that he's high profile. I think it's that he's pretty much the Republican nominee. I don't know if it's a little too early to say that, but I think pretty much everybody else in the race is just fighting for who's going to be his VP pick.
I
But I think that's a big part of it, and an even bigger part of it is that one of the promises that he's made on his campaign trail is he's going to fire everybody. So if you've got somebody who doesn't work at your job yet and is trying to get hired at your job and has said like, "Hey, my first priority is going to be to fire everybody at this job," wouldn't you be going to everybody at your job, everybody that has hiring and firing power, trying to like, "No, we can't have this guy work here. This is the like." It is an existential crisis, and that's the way I see
I'm just
Democratic
saying.
politicians approaching it.
Well, I also see like long-term Republican politicians approaching it because the thing is when you clear house like that, you indiscriminate clearing of the house, right?
It's uniparty politicians that have something to worry about.
Well,
It's the Mitch McConnells and the Nancy Pelosi's and the people that
mm,
don't really take a stand.
I mean, I don't disagree with you when it comes to like the Democratic side of the house. I think they are kind of cheering on the indictments and stuff like that. The problem is the indictments have served to make him more popular. Like, I mean,
Absolutely.
just by the raw numbers, there has been a little bit of a dip, but I think it's just the ebb and flow of campaign season. But I think overall, like Ron DeSantis, like the Republican Party, like the RNC, was really hyping up Ron DeSantis, and we see like how badly he has fallen in the poll numbers. And
Yeah, it's
I,
campaign failures though.
well, it's not just campaign failures. I think he's just not likable. Like there was an entire like opinion piece on it, and
Yeah.
it's like you know all these people were really excited to meet Ron DeSantis, like longtime Republicans. And when they met him in person, he just was not likable.
It was
Like
like meeting Megan Rapinoe.
yeah, they couldn't, they couldn't like connect with him like on a personal level, things like that. You know what I mean? Like he's not that kind of guy.
I
Um,
definitely meant that as a joke, but like as a
but
serious
it's
like
kind of true, like right. Like I don't know
yeah.
if I'd like Megan Rapinoe if I met her, but
No, I mean they say don't meet your heroes, and like that's what Ron DeSantis. Like I've heard some of those same stories where it's people are all excited to meet him. He'll come up and say like two kind of like grandstanding things that like, oh, I got the cameras on, and then he'll just like turn and walk like all right, like I'm done,
right,
like just
right.
awkward.
And then he has a very interesting fake laugh that a lot of like left wing YouTube will put up there, and
It
it's
can't be worse
definitely
than
him.
Kamala.
It's
It
definitely
can't be
like,
worse.
oh,
Go ahead.
it's worse. It's worse. A lot of left wing
Then
YouTubers.
Kamala Harris?
Yeah,
No way.
it is
I'll
worse.
I'll look it
Probably.
up, but
Yeah. The Ron DeSantis fake laugh. I think there's like a 10-hour edit of it because it's hilarious. But
mm,
it's I think the problem the problem the right is going to have with Donald Trump is a loose cannon at this point. He's not he's not going to be in lockstep with the Republican Party.
that's
And
what's attract like I think that's what
and
has him winning in polls.
well, that's the thing is like the RNC needs somebody that they can control. And that's not Donald Trump. I think they thought they could. And they did a pretty decent job in the first 4 years, but Donald Trump's revenge tour, he's not being controlled by anybody. And I think more than anything, it's the RNC that doesn't want to see Donald Trump as the candidate.
Yeah, I want to start wrapping up here, but
Right.
like there was one quote. So like I cut like maybe like a week ago, Tim Pool. I know how much you like listening to his show. Um, there was something where he was talking about Merrick Garland, calling him a garbage human for using the AG for revenge,
Right.
and then it was like 5 seconds later, he's saying, "Well, I want Trump to be president so he can get his revenge tour." Like
Right.
it was just this
Right.
dichotomy. Like I had noted that, and like
No, it's weird. It's like I want my guy in power. That's really what it boils down to. Is it's okay as long
yeah,
as my guy's doing it.